This is the Realme 9 Pro Plus 5G, one of the first ever mid-range smartphones with a Sony IMX766 sensor and OIS support. With every other smartphone manufacturer pushing towards the highest megapixel count, Realme has focused on giving you a flagship tier Sony sensor on a mid-range smartphone with OIS that makes this a beast in low-light photography. In the past couple of years, we've seen all these manufacturers push towards 64 megapixels, 108 megapixels at different price points. Now, to the average consumer, this sounds like a great thing, but is it? The short answer is no. You see, photography is based on light. Everything in photography comes from that basic essence. The more light you have, the better the images are gonna turn out. And here's what sucks about having high megapixel count on a smartphone small sensor. With a high megapixel count, you're essentially taking that sensor and shoving a bunch of pixels in there to reach that 108 megapixel, which means each individual pixel has to be quite small in order to condense into that space. That's with something like 108 megapixel. But for example, with a 50 megapixel sensor, each pixel size can be a little bit larger to fit into that space, actually twice as large compared to 108 megapixel, meaning that individual pixels have more space and they're larger, accepting more light. That brings me to the Realme 9 Pro Plus. This is a 50 megapixel sensor. For those of you who already know about the Sony IMX766 sensor, you know that this is one of the best that we've seen on smartphones. Usually you find them on phones that cost twice or even thrice as much as the Realme phone. It's a fairly large sensor, and having those bigger pixels basically allows you almost 63.8% more light than other smartphones within that range. This results in brighter, more detailed shots, especially in the dark. Now, pixels and pixel size aside, the Realme 9 Pro Plus also comes with OIS in addition to EIS. Essentially what OIS is optical image stabilization. What this does is physically move the camera lens to counteract the movement from your hand shaking. Now, usually within this price range, you either get no stabilization at all or you get EIS. EIS is basically electronic image stabilization, which basically just does what I just said, but digitally. I'm not a fan of digital stuff. Optical is always better than digital. But yeah, so not only does this have OIS, but it also has EIS. So the combination of two will give you the most steady movement to capture images in low light. So will this make a difference in daytime shots? Absolutely not. Most smartphones, if not all, will look exactly the same in daytime, but where this really shines is gonna be in nighttime photography. With this OIS, you can guarantee that the shots you take, especially in low light, will turn out crisp and sharp, so say bye to motion blur or shaky images. Now, combining the IMX Sony sensor with this OIS, the technologies together can pretty much guarantee you getting the best low light experience, especially with a mid-range smartphone. It's really miles ahead of the competition, especially within this price range where they're trying to push so much per megapixel and not really focusing on what makes images look good. Combining that with the software image processing from Realme, the result is truly great. Here's a few shots comparing a popular 108 megapixel camera within the same price range to the Realme. All the shots are taken after 8 p.m, which is quite dark. The Realme phone looks almost as if it's daytime. Incredible low light performance. You'd even expect the details to be higher in the 108 megapixel shot, which may be true in the daytime, but at nighttime, it's really struggling to even give you a bit of detail because there's so much post-processing involved in reducing the noise. With the Realme, I was genuinely surprised with the processing overall. The color reproduction, the vibrance, contrast, and saturation that you get in nighttime shots is very hard to achieve. Images look beautiful, vibrant, and have a nice tone to them. Neither are they over-sharpened, nor do they have that fake noise look. They're just right. HDR works beautifully during night as well, as you can see from these neon lights. Even the portrait mode looks great in low light, and a lot of smartphones, even flagships, can't handle that really well. Now again, because of that OIS, if you just stand still and do a long exposure shot, which is built into the phone as well, you can even capture things like light streaks, neon lights, star trails, because that OIS is so well integrated with the AIS and the software altogether. So low light shots can get creative as well if that's something you're into. All in all, I'll rate this smartphone really high when it comes to the low light performance and capturing images, especially given the budget of this. You're getting one of the best camera sensors on any smartphone on a mid-range device, which is always appreciated. Easy for me to say if you're someone who takes a lot of photographs with your friends, or you go about as a photographer at night, you like capturing evening scenes, light trails, starry night sky photos, this is definitely a huge recommendation. I also hope this kind of clears the confusion a little bit about why megapixels don't matter as much as image sensor. Now, of course, the camera isn't the only thing that's great about this device. There's a lot more to talk about internally and how this phone performs. So I'm gonna have a full review out for you guys very soon. Make sure you guys are subscribed for that. But in the meantime, really hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did like the video, consider subscribing for more content like this, and I'll see you again in the next video. Until then,